about using your why.
You know what I love about authors like you, and Erin, you guys are both authors. I find it so impressive that you can really put pen to paper, thought to pen to paper. I find that absolutely fascinating because there are times where you that's almost like etched in stone. I feel like podcasts are just like we're verbalizing it and it's out there, but I don't know why. You guys explain to me writing. There's a permanence to that. Agree or disagree?
There's absolutely a permanence to that, and that's what you hope for, that you can change the world with your thoughts. So my book is about using your why as the engine to overcome the challenges that entrepreneurs face.
Well, that's awesome.
A good one to connect with self-sabotaging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect kickoff, launch off to launch our show today, ladies. Are we ready?
We're ready.
Let's do this. Let's go for the afterglow. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the Afterglow Live Recap Podcast. My name is Syya.
And I'm Erin. We lost our guest.
Well, no, I put her off actually.
Oh.
So I'm changing it up. I know. That's what I do around here. So I thought we would change it up a little bit because I feel like I want to give a proper welcome to today's guest on Afterglow. So let's talk about this real quick. We are recapping Pat Pearson. She spoke yesterday with Michelle Lemons-Placente, the CEO of GLOW, Global Leaders Organization. And the theme for today's conversation is Stop the Self-Sabotage. And I love this because every freaking week I've done this for over almost a year and a half now. I still can't seem to get all the controls right. And it's still fun for me. And it's still, you'd think I would get it down, but it is what it is. And this episode, I think it's going to be talking about that self-sabotage. Why is it that I cannot be, quote, perfect in my live streaming capabilities? And I think our guest for today is going to help us understand, really dig in a little bit deeper with what Pat talked about. And that is, the new Dallas chapter, or I'm sorry, not Dallas. Oh my gosh, Los Angeles chair, Dr. Frumi. Welcome, Dr. Frumi Rachel Barr.
Thank you. This is so much fun already.
Well, it's really a pleasure to have you. And, one of the reasons why we're so thrilled to have you is you joined GLOW as the chair, and you're an incredibly successful, busy, entrepreneur like we all are. But I have to ask you, Dr. Frumi, why did you join GLOW and invest as the chair in LA, not a small market?
Well, that's really interesting because when I first talked to Michelle, our CEO, I was actually in San Francisco. And then I took a hiatus. I moved to Kansas City and then moved back to California and LA, where my family is, and reconnected with Michelle and said, why am I not the chair in Los Angeles? My whole life is around entrepreneurship. I've been an entrepreneur for decades because I'm not 20 anymore. And I chose entrepreneurship specifically so I could have this other life with my family. So I have 5 children. I always had infrastructure, but that's why I chose being an entrepreneur, for the freedom to choose what my life would be about.
I feel like you're talking about Erin's life here. It's kind of weird. Except Erin doesn't have 5 kids, but that's okay.
It's okay. There's time.
No, God, no. My 2 are killing me.
But that being said so let's talk about Pat Pearson and again, self-sabotage. I thought we would kick off our discussion with this little video that was literally posted this morning from Neil Sahota on LinkedIn. And Neil, Erin, if you recall, was actually a former guest of ours on Innovation Calling, one of our old podcasts. And he is a technologist. He is an IBM, what do you call it? Distinguished technologist, formerly of IBM. I think he's formerly of IBM. Either way, his branding and what he's decided to put out there on LinkedIn is positivity and believing that there's a very positive tie between artificial intelligence, the future of it as a technology, but cultivating a positive relationship with humanity. And so he posts a lot of things about humanity and thought-provoking stuff. So on that note, I just loved it. It's a 9-second video. So would you guys mind letting me indulge in playing this?
Go for it.
Awesome. Thank you. And here we go. Oh, probably have to play there. Boop. Okay, I have to play it one more time. Sorry. Okay, can I just tell you how awesome that is, right? Like the fact that, yes, the child couldn't get that piece into the slots that, of course it's meant to be a hand-eye coordination thing, but the child intuitively knew that the lid came off and said, wait, if my goal is to put it inside, I just lift off the lid and throw it in there. And then you could see that they celebrated their success. Why do you guys think this resonates?
Because we stop experimenting at a certain point if we failed somewhere. Whereas children keep trying. If they're crawling and then they decide they want to walk, they stand up. If they fall down, okay, they stand up again. But sometimes if you're not a real entrepreneur, the first failure makes you exit stage left and you become a corporate person again. Because it takes a mindset to really persevere as an entrepreneur. So we should all be babies. We should all have this new mindset of exploring new things, just like babies. And the other thing children do is they ask why all the time, right? And at some point, parents often say, stop asking why so much. And then curiosity gets subdued.
Well, it was interesting what, and it's Dr. Pearson, right? From yesterday, what she brought up yesterday, or Pat, I don't know. But anyway, what she brought up yesterday too, about our programming, it happens by the age of 5 to 6 is what we, and that limiting belief. So by the time that baby becomes 5 or 6, somebody told them, you can't lift the lid. It's impossible to lift the lid. That's what they're going to be programmed to do. And they're not going to go through that second route to lift the lid. So it's just interesting. It stresses me out though, because as a parent, I'm like, oh my God, what did I do when my kid was 5 or 6 to screw them up? But anyway, yeah, it's like, oh, it's interesting for me, but then I get stressed out as a parent. But anyway, just very, very interesting.
Well, that's all about mindset. So you can either foster a learning mindset or a growth mindset in a child or a fixed mindset. And it is striking to be a parent because everything we do has an influence.
Yeah.
And you could say the same thing to 2 different children and they'll receive it differently.
Yes, 100%.
Makes it hard.
Yeah.
I admire parents that you guys can do it at all. And I guess it does it ever get easier? I mean, the child develops at different stages, but does it ever get easier when they become adults? Notice how I'm skipping teenage years. When they become adults, does it get easier as a parent?
That's a funny question because I believe that there's a certain point you want your children to be independent, right? So that's kind of the goal, that they can go out in the world and be productive and doing whatever they want to do. So as a parent, at a certain point, you become irrelevant because you've accomplished that.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
And then you become relevant again later in life. So I was walking down the street with my son, whose wife was pregnant. And I said, do you know why I love you? And he said, yeah, sure, you're my mom. I said, you know what? You won't really understand it until your baby's born. So he had what I would call a coronial, okay? Not a COVID baby, but a coronial. Born right before COVID. And so he was forced to stay home. And because he was home, he developed this most amazing relationship with his little girl, which wouldn't have happened otherwise, right? He'd get up in the morning, go to work at 7:30, come home at bedtime. So now he gets it. Now he gets how important it is to be a good father and And he gets also why it's important for his mother to become relevant again. So there's a cycle of life.
Yeah.
I just became relevant again. I'm thrilled.
They need you again.
Yeah. Well, so much like the cycle of life, I think what carries us on in a lot of different ways as we overcome travails and challenges, etc., is the belief system within yourself. And Pat had mentioned her 4 core belief system that she talks about, and one of them that really struck me, and she threw out a stat which I want to challenge. Do you guys agree? I think it's higher, actually. She said number 1 is how you believe in yourself, as far as what are your thoughts that are you putting into your head. She said 77% of what we think about ourselves or we say to ourselves is negative. 77%. That blew me away. I guess to me that's high, but then personally I'm probably higher. Do you guys see the numbers in yourself, or what numbers do you think you guys are at?
I never thought of a percentage, but I do know that a lot of thoughts are negative. I remember once listening to a speaker who said, every time you have a negative thought, put an elastic band on your wrist, and every time you have a negative thought, snap it. Yeah. And that'll make you really conscious of just how negative you think all the time. Because and the other thing he said was, you bring who you are everywhere you go. And she also mentioned that. Right? You are who you are everywhere you go. So if she was talking about, like family, health, business, right?
Right.
Think of those as the legs of a stool. So you're sitting on a stool, and if one leg is wobbly, you might fall off. So that's the leg you have to shore up. And I think that relates directly to what she was saying. So what is your belief? Where are you weakest? And then think about, become self-aware. And I think the snapping exercise actually works really well.
I like that. Because, yeah, I think we just go and we don't realize, even just, I'm like a running to-do list. Actually going to therapy because I feel like my life is just a to-do list. It's all it is all the time. And even that's negative because it just drains you down. It's like, oh, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. And then I gotta go do this. And then it's like all of the other negative thoughts too. It definitely, you don't realize how much it consumes you until you're like actually sitting there like, okay, that thought just popped into my head. I like this rubber band idea for sure.
So when, about 2 decades ago, I went to a coaching school, the Hudson Institute of Santa Barbara, which is considered like the Harvard of coaching schools. And I learned something really valuable. When we have those negative thoughts in our head, we have to turn them around by having a conversation, if you like. So the conversation could go something like, that's not very helpful. Yeah. Instead of telling me what I'm not or what I can't do, why don't you be on the lookout for opportunities, or be on the lookout for ways that I can solve this? And it's just a conversation with yourself, but it really helps. Yeah. So that's not helpful is the first thing that you tell yourself. Let's do this instead.
I think that feeds into what she was talking about. One is what you choose to have. It's intentional. Again, it's so like a muscle. Like, again, as we talked about so many other shows and great speakers, is the fact that you have to have intentionality in your behavior and execution on it. Easier said than done.
Yes.
It is so much easier said than done. So can I ask you guys this then? One of the other core beliefs that she had mentioned, and I'm not going to go all through 4. Go listen to the show. I'll put the link down below, but she made a differentiation on this because we are all intelligent ladies. We're successful in whatever we've, activities that we've partaken on. But she said there is a difference, and you need to understand the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence. And this really resonated with me. So one thing she said about self-esteem was that is a result of unconditional support, and that support from your life, your friends, your family. She then said self-confidence is conditional acknowledgement of your accomplishments, meaning you're rewarded for what you've done, which builds confidence, not self-esteem. So my question to both of you ladies is, where are you guys at from self-esteem perspective and self-confidence? Where do you think you've got, if it to be a scale, what's your stronger area of getting your behavior to do XYZ?
And the other thing she said was that during the last year and a half, self-esteem has gone down for a lot of people because they're not with their people. So they're not getting that external support that they need. So this is an interesting time to be talking about that, because I think all of our self-esteem has gone down a little bit. Maybe it's starting to rise now that we're getting out in the world again. The self-confidence thing is also really interesting to me, because I think that's like a roller coaster. You could be very self-confident about some things, and then something can happen that just saps it.
Yeah.
So I'm the business advisor and coach that CEOs have on their speed dial. So I can talk them off the ledge, okay? And one of the things I was sharing yesterday with one of my CEOs who's about to do a lot of pitching or presenting, as they would call it in Canada, I said to her, you have to imagine that you're sitting on the Iron Throne. In the old days, when you'd be on a stage, the trick was pretend you have a spot on the stage that's, your power spot. Step into your power spot. Those are kind of assistants to self-confidence. And I think those are the tools that we all need, because I think it's not constant. If you have one toxic relationship in your business, for example, that could totally sap your self-esteem. Your self-confidence. I'm now going to distinguish between the two. I never thought of that before as two different things.
I never thought of it before as different things either. I thought it was really interesting. But even, I know, I'll personally speak, even on the self-confidence side, I discount. So I don't know how high I let myself ever get in confidence, because it's like, oh, I did this, but it was only, right? I discount I only sold several thousand books, so it wasn't that great. You know what I mean? Versus being like, I know how to do A, B, and C. I did this. I was quote unquote successful at it. I discount everything. So therefore I don't even let the confidence build, which it's interesting. So it's not a matter of doing and acknowledging and performance. And even when somebody pats me on the back, I'm like, not a big deal. It wasn't that hard. It wasn't that hard to do. Like, I do that all the time. It was like, well, it was really easy to do, or I know the game, or I know how to do whatever. And so I let that affect it too.
I have to jump in on this. So one of the things that Erin's done, and which is so inspirational, is she threw together an entrepreneur event, Dr. Frumi, within 2 months. And she was able to get 3 months. Okay, it does, Erin, 3 months. Okay, like even now, like for us to do our chapter meetings, it's like we've lost the time. Just one chapter meeting, we're trying to get back on the saddle. But you pulled together this huge event, got speakers, got Southwest and IKEA, and oh gosh, so many others to sponsor. And I'm like, how the hell did you pull that off? She got what's his name, Robert Herjavec, to speak. And I'm, it just blows my mind, because I was like, girl, you pulled that together in 3 months. And at the time, I know she went insane and she was like clearly walking off the ledge, but everyone gave her attaboys and she just shrugged it off like, it wasn't much. Never mind everyone that does anything, throwing a birthday party for your family. You know how much work it takes.
So let me ask you something, both of you. Do you think that's a gender issue? Do you think women are more likely to say that?
Well, and I didn't know that, but I definitely agree that there is a gender. I don't know. I don't know if it's a me issue, because in a lot of ways I'm very masculine, but I think there is a gender side to it too, because I know I don't toot my own horn, which is a woman thing, right? I'm not like, hey, you should see what I did. Look at me. I'm amazing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't know if all women discount like that, or if it's just Erin really has a problem with discounting.
Or I'm going to think about this more optimistically speaking. We are so freaking competent at what we do that when there are given accolades of things, I think we're so competent that we're like, dude, that's like no brainer. That's like easy to do. That's nothing you should applaud me for. I think more often than not is because women do multitask. I think we have to acknowledge the fact that, you guys are parents, you're mothers, you're entrepreneurs, you're successful women, your time is limited, and you really have to organize how you're going to do it. And because just by virtue of life happenstance, it's like second nature. And I think sometimes when it's second nature, it's hard to stop and smell that rose, if you will, of your capabilities. I think that's kind of more the root of it than, and I don't want to go bigger and broader where society doesn't teaches women to be demure and all that stuff. We could probably do that as well. But I think it's whether multitasking and competency that we think it's a no-brainer. That's what I think it is.
And we think that everybody recognizes that.
And
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yes, point it out, but men do point it out. Men ask for what they want. They don't expect to get a raise or a different position. They expect it because they're really good at what they do, that someone's going to notice. But I just counseled someone important to me to go into his company and say, I would like that position. What do I need to do to attain it? And what the CEO said to him was, it's yours. I just need to get board approval. But if he wouldn't have asked, would he get it? They'd probably find someone from the outside instead of looking internally. Because if you're really good at what you do, people tend to leave you just there doing what you're good at. And so for women, they don't necessarily do that. Or here's another one that I find really funny. Susan, you can have the corner office now. And Susan will say, I don't need the corner office. I just decorated my office. Why would I want to move? A man would never say that. They'd say, yes, that corner office is mine. So I think we sabotage ourselves as a gender often.
I would agree with that.
Okay, so then if we're going to talk about self-rating ourselves, then let's put ourselves up there and putting it out there to everyone else that's watching and listening. If you were to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, this is one activity that I thought would be fun for us to go through. Your self-esteem today. And by the way, I feel like these ratings is for the moment. I don't think it's a permanent thing. I think it's situational at times. So scale of 1 to 10, where do you think you're at with self-esteem? And where do you think you're at with self-confidence as of today at 10, whatever, in the Central Center time?
Who's going to answer that first?
Well,
this is not a good point in my life to be rating that. I'm going to be flat out honest with you.
Okay, so I'm going to be honest too. Last week, I would say my self-esteem was probably a 7 and my self-confidence maybe was a 5. But today, my self-confidence is an 8. And
what changed?
Well, did you ever hear the fable about the guy who travels around the world looking for diamonds and comes back and finds his diamonds are in his backyard?
No, that's a cool story.
It's a really cool story. So I was letting a client go, and that made me feel, I've got to go find another client to replace this client. And then I realized that I had a client who had several of the people that I would want to advise within her network, and all I had to do was ask and say, how about we do this? And that changed everything. So the diamonds were in my own backyard. But even as a woman consultant, how often would you say to a client, who would you like to refer me to? You're getting a lot of value from me. Why not share that with somebody else you know in your network? We're like, the reason my book is called A CEO's Secret Weapon is because for so many years, I was a secret. When you think about working with CEOs, they're not going to tell people who their trusted advisor is. They want the world to think they're brilliant and that every idea they have is their idea. Whereas every CEO really needs someone as a sounding board. They often come up with the brilliance themselves, but it's because they're talking out loud that they suddenly go, oh, I can do that. Wouldn't that be brilliant? So it was finding the diamonds in my backyard yesterday, right before this, that gives me a higher rating. Otherwise, being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And if it's smooth sailing, I wonder to some degree, are you really an entrepreneur? 'Cause-
Well, I'd also say that when it's smooth sailing, don't you wait for the other shoe to drop?
Oh,
Like, this is going great. When's it going to stop?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, the problem is you're always pushing. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you're not always pushing, but it's always evolving. Like, you're never at a, if you are at just sitting in a stale place in a business, you're not going to survive. So you always have to be pushing, which is always going to be bringing challenges. So yeah.
Well, even during the pandemic, think about all the restaurants that were forced to close.
Mm-hmm.
Those restaurants that were forced to close, I'm sure there were other factors than what I'm going to mention, but they were all the people who said, this will pass. We'll just hunker down for 3 or 4 months. But the ones that went right to the drawing board and said, let's create curbside service.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people can just drive up and we'll just give them a bag at the door. Those are the ones that are still here.
Yep.
Or the
Yeah.
ones that build seating. Well, I'm in LA, right? People who built seating outside. So
Yep.
that, right? And just bought heaters so that
Yep.
people could eat outside. Those are the ones that are thriving.
Yep. Or were they,
Yeah.
and I loved seeing it, was where they block off streets. Like everyone agreed. The community agreed and said, okay, we'll have outdoor dining. And they just close off the street and boom, called it. I love it. And quite frankly, I felt like there was more community in that, even though no one really could be close to each other. And I did stay in, but I think that is nurturing for the human soul because we think we are a communal species.
Right. Well, some of us get our energy from other people, right?
Yeah.
Extroverts. Yep.
You think about Myers-Briggs and
Yeah.
what being an extrovert is. It's actually getting energy from other people. And then some people get energy by being on their own. I think what the pandemic has taught a lot of us is that we have to learn to be alone. And then we become too comfortable being alone. And then it becomes hard to go out again.
Out. That's exactly what I think
Yeah.
happened. Yep. I think we did find our inner peace with ourselves.
We were
Well, I
forced-
think, and I think everybody's got a little bit of both. I think you have to have community. I really don't believe it's one way or the other. I think, the extrovert does have to learn to be alone, but the introvert needs to be out too. I mean, you can't just, you have to connect with people. And I think that was one thing everybody realized too. Like the joke was, oh, I'm good at, I'm made for this. And then it's like 1 month in, it's like, maybe I'm not. Like, it's kind of a mind mess. So I believe everybody needs both.
I agree with that. I think with introverts, of course, I live with one, is this on their time when they're ready, when they're interested, they do like the community interaction. But when they're done, we have to accept they're done. And I think that's
Right.
what it is, right? It can't just be small talk. It's got to be something that's more meaningful.
Yeah.
Engagement's still the same. The connection's still the same. So ladies, we can talk about this all day. Unfortunately, we're running up on time. And I do want to promote you, Dr. Frumi, because you wrote a little book. Can we talk about the CEO's little secret that you'd like to share with us?
So my book's called The CEO's Secret Weapon, How to Accelerate Success. It has a foreword by Simon Sinek, who's well known for his Start With Why TED Talks and all his subsequent books. So that should give you a hint about what it's about. So I interviewed 40 CEOs from around the world, actually 50. And as a result, what I heard were all the challenges. I got 40 challenges from 50 CEOs. And I took those challenges and synthesized them into 10 chapters to share how knowing your why or your purpose helps you get over those challenges. And
Love
I'm
it.
about to do a relaunch of the book because, frankly, Simon is so much better known than when I wrote the book 10 years ago.
Hey, you're
Oh,
OG.
wow, that's
You're
awesome.
OG.
Yeah. You were on the forefront of that.
Hopefully, always as an entrepreneur, right?
Absolutely. Well, we're always happy. We produce podcasts. If you'd like to get on any or jump on any others, let us know. And anyone that's on there that has a podcast, Dr. Frumi's amazing. She's also the Los Angeles Glow Chair. So let's talk about Glow, ladies, because that's why we're kind of here. So, Erin, want to wrap this up with us for us?
Yeah. So all of this is about GLOW, which is GLO, which stands for Global Leaders Organization. It's an organization that Syya and I are the Dallas co-chairs of. Obviously, Dr. Frumi is the LA chair. And it's really an organization for entrepreneurs. You do have to qualify. It's not just for any entrepreneur, but it's all different kinds of raising capital, all different kinds of things that can help you grow your business. Forums, which is like a mastermind. I don't want to call it a mastermind, very much more in depth, where you're actually with a group, very connected. I know some of these people have been in forums for 20 plus years, which is absolutely amazing. There also is the business finishing school, which is another perk to Glow, which I think you get it at a reduced fee as being a premium member, but it is like an MBA behind the scenes, helping you, again, grow your business. All of these things are member benefits. So if you're interested in becoming a premium member in the Dallas area, connect with Syya or myself. In the LA area, connect with Dr. Frumi, or just head over to withglow.com to check it out and join us every Thursday for these talks. I think I got it all.
Erin, I think we're finally getting our messaging down better. That was awesome. So thank you so much, Dr. Frumi, for your time. Obviously, welcome to the crew and being a chapter chair at Glow, and we will support you any way we can. So when your membership starts growing and you get your Founding 50 established, send them our way. We'd love to have them be a guest on After Glow. So thank you, Dr. Frumi.
And with your encouragement, my self-esteem just went up.
Oh. Yay.
Perfect. And on that note, guys, if you want to learn more about not sabotaging yourself, please check out the original video. The link will be down in the comment section, or hit up Dr. Frumi, Erin, myself on how you too can grow and be more successful. Or perhaps maybe you can buy a book about a CEO's secret weapon for success. That might be helpful as well. So on that note, everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Be safe, and we shall see you next week on the Afterglow. Bye, everyone.